It's the Real Estate Podcast, brought to you by ANZ Home Loans for financial well-beings.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Real Estate Breakfast, covering the latest in property news every morning, as we do and heard on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and wherever you get your podcasts from. It is a Thursday morning, January the 16th, and we are nearly finished the first week back, if that is you. If you're still on holiday and heading back this coming Monday, relax over the last few days. It already feels, doesn't it, like we are well into the year, halfway through the month of January, and coming up, we are back into the time tunnel this morning as the summer series of real estate podcasts continues.
You're listening to the summer series on the Real Estate Podcast.
That's true. And what's the one big event that we're having here in the U.S. soon in November? The election. People are very uncertain of which way that's going to go. It's been a very tight race, and that's a huge unknown. And a lot of studies show that just the mere fact of uncertainty makes people freeze up, and they can't really make a decision one way or another. It's actually been studied for a very, very long time now, going back decades, and it's called the disjunction effect. When there's uncertainty, you can't move left or right. You just have to wait until the outcome is known before you can make a move.
Yes, the election, it is definitely looming large. I mean, I can't believe that there are so many of these so-called undecided voters out there. The media still talks about this group of undecideds who might affect the general election. There aren't any undecided people now, surely, after the Harris-Trump debate, the Harris-Walz campaign. That seems to be marching on, but it's going to be a very tight election, which is what you're saying.
I actually do know some people who are still undecided, if you can believe it. They have been pretty unhappy the last few years. They feel like the prices have gone up a lot and they struggle with their finances.
Just talk a little bit more about that disjunction effect, because it's almost like a paralysis where people, as you say, they just sort of freeze up and they decide that for whatever reason, when it comes to especially real estate, people just have to wait until they shake it out of their system in terms of the general election for real estate.
Not just real estate, it's sort of like any sort of big purchase. I think I just read an article this morning that said this is happening also in the automobile market. You know, there's a pileup of inventory, and a lot of the dealers will tell you it's because of the election. Now, I don't know if people are just waiting for rates to fall and maybe they can get better auto loans or auto loan rates or what. But I really think that it's just this idea that people have. They just can't make a decision, even if the thing that they're waiting for an answer for has no effect whatsoever on their decision. It's a strange thing. You know, I think they've tested a lot of people and they've given them a choice to, you know, they say, can you make this decision, even if you're not sure what grade you're going to get on this test? And the students have said, no, they can't make a decision. But then they say, okay, well, let's test you again. And, you know, you've failed. Now, can you make a decision? And surprisingly, they can. So it's kind of a strange thing, but it is a real phenomenon that has been studied for decades.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, Bundaberg is go, and we're off to Bundaberg in Queensland this morning with Brent Illingworth. And good morning to you, Brent. Welcome to the Real Estate Breakfast. Were you a Thunderbirds nut like me when you were a kid?
Good morning, mate. Very clever. No, my parents probably were, that's for sure. I'm sort of mid-30s, so I do absolutely remember the Thunderbirds, and there's been a couple of modern takes on them in my lifetime, but I wasn't a massive nut for them, but I'm certainly appreciating what you're doing there.
We've done hundreds. In fact, we've done over 1,000 episodes now of real estate podcasts around Australia. Do you know we've never done Bundaberg from my recollection? So this is a first for us.
Wonderful. There you go. Well, I think a lot of people over the last few years, thanks to that COVID exodus out of some of the capital centres, have discovered Bundaberg. So it's a wonderful part of the world. Our secret is now no longer a secret, and lots of people are flocking here.
Yeah, what is the population now in Bundaberg? And secondly, just a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about Mackay, and I guess Bundaberg would probably compete with Mackay a little bit for those first-time buyers. Now, you're the first city out of the two. They've got to travel further north. I wonder if that kind of makes a bit of a difference because you're a little bit closer to Brisbane.
Yeah, I think it certainly does. I mean, we're 4 hours on the highway, and the highway is slowly but surely getting better, certainly between Bundaberg and Brisbane anyway. I know there's been some issues north of Bundaberg lately with the Bruce Highway, but we've found that it's nearly at that point now where Gympie has been bypassed too, so it could drop to a 3.5 hour trip down the road, and that's certainly achievable for the average family to duck down the highway for a weekend away. So absolutely, that gives us some sort of advantage over the likes of Rockhampton, Mackay, and then of course further north to Townsville and Cairns. But from my perspective, I think the 4 hours seemed a bit of a stretch for some time there, and our rail system's great. Our fly in and out system's not so good. We've only got limited options as far as airlines go, but certainly the drive now has become much more simple. And I think we've surpassed Mackay as median house price goes the last few years, which is probably a relative thing. You're closer to Brisbane, and that southeast corner is, as I said earlier, very expensive now, and the shade that throws across the country is starting to grow. It sort of comes up as far as Gympie now getting expensive. So Bundaberg, Hervey Bay, Maryborough, this part of Wide Bay, it's well and truly on the map.
And what's the population?
Yes, of course. Sorry, getting back to your question. So as far as Bundaberg goes, we've had to reassess our population the last couple of years, which has been sensational. We were actually concerned, speaking to our Bundaberg Regional Council, that we had such an ageing population for a while there that it was trending backwards, but COVID's changed that substantially. We've had estimates of up to 15,000 to 20,000 people to grow into our area over the next sort of 10 years. So by 2030, it could see that kind of growth, which is incredible. At the moment, the township itself is still around that 85,000 to 90,000 people, a little bit more than that when you obviously encompass some of the coastal areas, and the Bundaberg Regional Council is over 100,000 people out towards Childers and Gingy and some of our hinterland areas.
Ready to step up your property knowledge? Access powerful insights with us.
Are you finding that some of them have sort of cashed out of the market, perhaps moved off to Queensland, to other areas, and maybe similar to some people that are trying to get into the market moving?
Yeah, look, it's a great topic, that one. I've had a lot of clients over the last sort of 10 to 13 years that have probably purchased their first home. And back 10, 13 years ago, they were buying your single level, 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom homes for about the $750,000 to about $1 million. And nowadays, those same 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom homes are selling anywhere from the $2 million to about the $2.5 million. So a lot of people are taking the option to sell up here and move up north to Queensland for a more relaxed life, or even I've had a couple of clients that have moved the other way and gone towards Adelaide along the water there, and they've sold up here for $2 million, $2.5 million, and buying gorgeous home over that way, brand new, for around the 800, 900 mark. So they're really cashing in and taking the better option for a bit more of a relaxed life, which, it's a bit of an envy for some people, but if you can do it, why not?
Oh, yeah, especially having $1 million in your hip pocket, cashing out and moving to a place like Adelaide. That's a pretty smart move for a lot of people. Now, let's talk about the median house prices and unit prices. You better break those down for people, Ben, listening this morning.
The median house price for North Ryde, for your standard sort of 3-4-bedroom home, the untouched would have been probably a 1950s, 1960s build. They're selling anywhere from about the 2 to 2.4 mark. Average would probably be around the 2-3. The apartments, your average 2-bedroom apartment, you're probably selling around the 850 to 900 mark.
Okay, so yeah, a reasonable amount of coin for the suburb of North Ryde, which kind of leads me into the fact that there was a bit of a record that was set there recently. In fact, in a matter of seconds, it was a high-end property. Tell us a little bit about what happened with this, because I think the old record was just a tick over 4 million, and you set the record.
Yeah, look, one of the other agents in the area sold a property November last year for $4,010,000, which was a cracker result. We popped our property on the market, brand new home, 5 bedrooms, cinema room, 3 living areas, swimming pool, you name it, it had it, and very high-end finishes. We had a lot of other builders in the area that wanted to have a little bit of a sticky beak and come and have a look at it, and all of them were leaving the house, having a chat with me and in awe at how high the finishes and the product was. We had 193 groups come through the property and about 26 contracts issued out. So a fair amount of attention to this house. And basically our first opening bid just smashed the current record. So opening bid was 4.3 million. So we were already a record from there on.
So let's get on to some of these areas for first home buyers. And you've got 3 that you would like to suggest. So if you are a first time buyer, listen up.
So these are all in different states of Australia. Of course, you have a national audience, and I think it's important that we never forget that. We're looking, first of all, in that Logan Shire of southeast Brisbane, which is almost or roughly halfway between Brisbane and the Gold Coast. But it's an easy commute either way via both public transport and really great freeways that they've built in southeast Queensland, great infrastructure there. So if you're in the Logan Shire, you're less than an hour either way back into the main city, if you even need to go there. And what we have in those areas is not only affordable housing, and when I say affordable, I mean in today's terms affordable, but we also have a lot of different opportunities to enter the market. So it might not necessarily be a house that you enter the market as a first-time buyer. It could be a unit or a townhouse or a smaller option, a duplex. And in the Logan Shire, which is incredibly well resourced, I might add, so there's no need to really go out of the Logan Shire for anything, you can get properties from $400,000 for a unit and less even for a townhouse in some of the areas like Woodridge, where you can pick up a townhouse in the $300,000 mark, which will have 3 bedrooms and a bathroom and a car space as well. Or you can go into areas like Yarrabilba, which is a newer area, and it has housing available, 3 bedroom, 2 bathroom, from around about $600,000, which in today's terms is within the reach of first home buyers. I like Logan Shire because over the years, demographically, we're seeing quite a change in people who live there.
Yes, we have covered the Logan Shire with all of those points that you make. It just seems to be an area that is being bought into by first home buyers. Now let's go into your second spot, which is in the Adelaide region.
Absolutely, and it's in the northern suburbs, a relatively new northern expressway to get up into those more distant northern suburbs. Affordable housing from $400,000 up into the $600,000 for a freestanding house. For investors, it's great because there are good returns. But for first home buyers, again, another area with a very changing demographic of people and highly affordable housing, very well resourced for families.
All right, so that was your second suggestion. Your third one is in Melbourne somewhere.
Yes, my third one is in Melbourne, and it's out past Narrawarren, and it's on the road down towards Sale. And there are a couple of areas around there. For example, Churchill as one of them. On the other side of Pakenham fairly recently exploded with people and became quite unaffordable. But if you're willing to go a little bit further past there into the Latrobe Valley, then you'll find that you've got lots of housing available there, also around the $600,000 mark. Many suburbs around that area. Great train line back into Melbourne. A good, easy commute back into that narrow Warren area, which has grown amazingly and become quite resource rich for the families that are living in those areas.
So you said a people person, and I just wonder how many people, maybe over a number of years, you've seen the odd person pop up and you've thought, no, this is clearly probably not going to work if you're not into people and just that face-to-face. It's so important, isn't it?
That's absolutely right. One of the policies I stick to is never sell someone into a business you can't sell them out of. And certainly if I come across people, newcomers who I don't think are suitable for the industry, I won't be shy in telling them. Of course, people do make mistakes and get into the industry where, they don't have those people skills. Ultimately, to maintain the value of a business, you need to get along with the residents because you need to get their votes to top those agreements up. And of course, if you haven't got those people skills, you won't get the agreements topped up and the value of your business will drop. The industry does tend to weed out the people that shouldn't be in it fairly quickly.
Now, if you've been listening to these discussions and you have thought to yourself, okay, I'm at a stage now where I understand enough about the industry and want to find out more. If somebody is thinking that, Alex, can you step over just how somebody becomes involved in being an on-site manager?
I think becoming close with a good broker who's going to spend the time to understand your needs and what you're looking for and start presenting you with opportunities and explaining the processes that you need to go through to get into the industry is critical. At the end of the day, it's going to be a broker who will show you the various types of properties. They'll introduce you to other key professionals. We always say if you're going to get into management rights, make sure you use specialists. So speaking to a specialist finance broker who will be able to look at your finances and give you an idea of what you're able to purchase. Obviously, when you do purchase, the lawyer, management rights specialist lawyer, is a real linchpin in the process in regards to running the due diligence and the conveyancing part of a process. So I suppose in simplicity, find a good broker to start with, but from there, just make sure you're surrounded by the best industry specialist professionals that you can find.
We connect you to the best real estate information across Australia. The Real Estate Podcast.